Complexity exposes how organizations actually operate. As growth and pressure increase, the challenge is no longer strategy. It's about how do you sustain execution, accountability, and leadership consistency across the business. This is Operating Discipline with Terry Wilson, conversations with CEOs and senior leaders about organizational performance under pressure. Today's guest is Suresh Narayanan, and he is the president of maintenance for Flyhouse. So excited to have you here, Naresh. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, when we had our conversation, one of the things we talked about that I think would be really valuable for our audience to hear is just about the importance of transparency in um, sharing information with employees so that they own the business. So, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, we always hear buzzwords like people first, transparency, and values, and I always like to ask, well, how do you actually objectively do that? Because I think people in this day and age don't always believe it, because every value I look at has people first and transparency, and so for me, things I've done that actually show it is like I love sharing financials with employees, like the full picture down to like net profit, and it makes a lot of businesses uncomfortable, and even when I go look at other businesses for M&A and I mention, "Hey, let's share financials." It's still something leaders can't get their head around when I think it's such a normal part of doing business in this day and age, is like share the information so employees understand what's going on with the business, not just hearsay, right?
Mhm.
And it's magical what it does when they actually engage or are tied to performance or driving that. Like, for instance, if you do a profit sharing bonus program where, hey, if we hit these numbers as a team, everyone benefits. Like, it's magical how that transparency then plugs into performance. And so I think it's super important. I think communication from leadership can always be better. Like, you can never over communicate, in my opinion. No one's ever like, oh man, I'm getting too much information, right? It's always lack thereof. And so I think all team meetings, small team meetings, one-on-ones, like how you structure that to be consistent through a year with the team, depending on size, is a super important part of transparency because it also gives people an avenue for feedback and questions. And so those are two tidbits I think I would say that show people that we are a transparent business. There's so many more you can do, but I always like to say how, because no one says I'm not transparent or I'm not people first, but I like to ask how they actually show they are.
I appreciate so much what you said. One, there are buzzwords that are out there. People first, all of that. They're buzzwords until they become reality. And second, y- you know, transparency is easy to say, it's hard to do. So how did you learn that? How did you learn that that was a valuable way to lead as a leader?
I think some trial and error. I went to SMU to get my MBA, and we did a lot of organizational behavior classes and a lot of like negotiation type classes. And then I think I took a lot of my experiences in grad school and starting and growing a business with my brother at a young age in aviation aerospace and learning what not to do. And then when I tried these things, like we actually shared financials and I tied them to performance. Like our business skyrocketed. It went from like, oh, we're growing 10, 15% to 30, 40, 50% because we had everybody aligned to the same goal. And so I think those things are they're only going to help your output. I don't see very many opportunities to decrease it. And so when you have all your employees aligned to a common goal, it's magical what you can do. And then I love sports and business. So I equate that as you have the whole team passing the ball, they know the play, and the goal is to win. And the scoreboard usually is financials. So it's a great way to show if we're winning. And if we're losing, it's okay. Well, what are we going to do about it? And then you have more ownership during tumultuous times as you do to times of growth where it's just positive stack on positive.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I have talked to clients about that for years now, which is you want to share the business with with the team so that no matter what you need to talk to them about, they understand that. Because I think too often we hold those financials very close and employees don't know. And so when you do have to start making changes, because maybe the business isn't growing the way you want or the economy is affecting the business, you have to make changes. Employees are shocked. And now you have to navigate that message very carefully. Versus if you just bring them along, they're following what you're following. It's just an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, completely agree. And so now I try to share as much as I can. So as like I get new teams or we acquire, we hire more. You just got to have a good operating system and cadence so you can be consistent about it. It can't be reactionary and go, I'm going to do an all team meeting, and then they don't hear from you 4 months later. And so I like structure and process, and calendar is your friend. Now you just set reminders and say that, every Thursday, third week, we're doing all team. Ours is tomorrow. And now it reminds me before, and I don't miss it. And so it's so simple to do and make it part of your daily habit.
Well, it's also very intentional, like you said. I mean, all of us can put time on our calendar, but if it's not a priority and something happens, oh, we have to do this. It's one reactive. Two, it's not intentional. But when it's intentional, it's on your calendar. You navigate your priorities so that that stays intact. So you can have whatever conversation you want to have, with the team. Again, I'm just so impressed that you learn this and that you're implementing it. So one of the questions I have, how large is your team?
Now I think we're about 50 plus employees on the maintenance team. But we
Okay.
have four different sites, two in California, one in Texas, one in South Florida.
Okay. So they're dispersed.
Yeah,
So
we're spread out everywhere.
so when you do these meetings, are they all virtual or some people are present and some are virtual?
It depends where I am. I'm the moving target. So usually, if I'm here in Dallas, I'll do it with my Dallas team. Other people will call in. If I'm alone on a customer visit, then it's all virtual. It's totally I'm the variable. I'm the one that keeps moving.
Okay. No, that's good. Did you find that, you said you and your brother started to grow a business. What business was that?
It was an aerospace engineering firm.
Mhm.
And
Who
so we
has
would
the
do like engineering mods. My brother's an aerospace engineer, so he's a big reason why I got into aviation. My dad was in aviation too. I'm a pilot as well, and so it kind of an aviation family. But my oldest brother had a cool idea to grow an aerospace engineering business, and we scaled it to a pretty good sized business. So he was kind of the visionary, and I got to kind of tag along and help grow it.
Wow. So, um, I'm gonna assume at a young age, so I don't know. Again, I don't know how old you are, but I'm gonna
Mm.
assuming you did that very early in your career, and it has just really
Yeah.
shaped where you are now.
Yeah, I think I was like 24, 25 when I jumped into that
Mhm.
basically build of a company. I didn't know much about aviation, like technically at the time, and just learned it. Did grad school and just kept learning and learning and learning, and now it's easy. It's easy to understand the technical side of aviation, but what fascinates me is still the people of any business and how to navigate that and get the best out of them.
Mhm. And so the 50 people who report to you, what kinds of positions are they?
Mechanics, maintenance mechanics, other positions like customer service managers, parts people, but all technical, touch labor type positions. We have some leadership within there, obviously built up, but a lot of them have strong maintenance backgrounds.
So what's interesting to me about that and sharing the financials, was there a level of education that you had to do with the team for them to really understand it?
I think in previous businesses, we would bring in accounting as a resource to help them understand what a P&L means, what's gross margin versus net, those types of things. Yes, there's an education piece that you want to at least take the time, if not in a group setting where they don't feel comfortable asking, creating a space where they can learn from accounting. So we have those avenues. I think we can always do better because I don't think everyone understands on day one. It just takes time, but then hopefully they get comfortable enough to ask questions, even silly ones, and just learn.
Mhm. And I ask that for a reason because I think we make a lot of assumptions on things. And when you share financials, there are a lot of people who say they know, they understand, but probably don't. And so it's good to share, but there's an educational component that has to be there.
Yeah, um, agreed. And if I do a good job being a leader, I create an environment where they can ask questions or go to their leader and
Mhm,
manager and ask those questions and feel comfortable saying, I don't know. I'm sure it's hard to do that in front of everyone. Like, I
mhm.
don't get this, I don't understand it. So I try to lead by saying I don't know often, because in my world, you can't know everything about everything on an airplane. So there's certain things you just don't know. And my industry doesn't do it. I don't think business does it enough. And so I hopefully create the environment where they can ask those vulnerable questions, if not in front of people, in private.
Okay, yeah, again, this is another trend, another buzzword, make it safe. And for me, I understand that, I get it, but this is the way we should be doing business. We if you are in a company and you have a position, I believe you have ownership in that
Yeah.
in that company, in that position. And so making it safe to me is this is the way we should be doing business. So the fact that it's trendy right now is not surprising, but it's like, really? Where did we ever get away from that?
It's an intangible. It's hard to objectively make an environment like that. And so it's you gotta put some thought into it and be like, here's how we're gonna make it an okay place to ask questions and learn. And it's what I like about leadership is it's like I can't read that in a book and just go do it. I can't measure that to some extent either. And I love numbers in terms of measuring performance or success. And so those are the cool things about leadership is like you can't just do that. It takes time and it's not clear what the right move is all the time ever.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
Right? And again, I think, we need to take pressure off of ourselves that, as leaders of an organization or of a team, whatever level, we're still learners.
Mhm. Agree.
So the other thing about the financials, I think, um, that's really important is when you have tough financials, does the conversation feel different? Does it look different?
Yeah, but it's the truth. I mean, I think like when we were starting up a business, I mean, you lose money till you don't. And when you share that, I mean, it scares a lot of employees. I probably took for granted sharing like that in the beginning. They're like, "What? We burned this much money?" I'm like, "Yeah, we just opened. We don't have a customer yet. It's part of our plan. You got to invest to grow." But then to people who aren't used to that, they're like, "Should I look for a job? Oh my goodness." Um, yeah, but when you go through those challenges together as a team, I think it just makes you stronger. And then when you actually see the motivation and urgency because they hate seeing that negative number in the beginning to get it to a positive number. Like it's great to have that alignment, but it can put some undue stress on employees that may not understand it or get worried about it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because, again, coming back to the point of being transparent throughout is huge so that when those things happen, because in any business they do happen, employees aren't caught off guard. They're walking right alongside you, and again, the strategies that we have in place to mitigate them, they're not going to be a surprise. They aren't sitting on the sideline saying, "I hope it works. I hope it works." They're part of the solution.
Yeah. No, completely agree. I think bringing people in close, having a good leadership team and that structure is super important. And hiring leaders versus managers, understanding the difference too, is important too. And so at certain levels, I look for leaders. At certain, look for good managers. But they're two different skill sets, and I think people need to understand that.
Okay, talk to me about that from your perspective.
Oh, I think in any business, you think the best producers become the best leaders. And I think it's a fallacy that the best performer, whether it's sales or a technician or in any business, should always get the promotion into leadership. That's not actually, it actually doesn't work as much as people think. And if you promote someone into leadership versus just being a performer, and they do bad, you lost a good performer and you probably hurt yourself with other people having a bad leader. So I think leadership skills are different than managerial skills or being a performer. And you got to pick which path is best for your team to build that best team.
So there's a lot of what I call noise out there about
Mhm.
leadership, all the different ways to do leadership. Why do you think that is such I don't know, such a topic of discussion now?
Because I think people in any industry are they're finding out in any business is going to be your key to success. And so if you focus on investing in people and executing with them, especially at scale, when you talk about businesses that are growing 10, 20, 30, 50 people, let alone 100, 200 plus, and you can't do everything yourselves, you have to figure out the people equation, how to motivate them and align them. So I think that conversation of leadership, it's a complex chessboard, but you got to make the right moves, knowing that you can't be 100% right, but you got to make some moves. And so I think the topic is learning all those tidbits it is like learning chess where you have to know every combination to figure out what's best for the game right in front of you. And every team's different to that extent. And so I love like reading leadership stories and all that because it's just information. And then I can take those experiences, shared experiences, and apply them to my specific situation. But it's never a copy and paste deal. I don't go read a book and say I'm just going to implement it here and it works. I think it's really figuring out who your team is and applying what you've learned in leadership understanding or other experiences and see what works and measure it.
Mhm. I love that, because again, you're demonstrating that you're always open to new information coming in to help you
Mhm.
lead better, lead people, lead the organization. Do you think that happens enough with other leaders?
No, if it happened enough, then I would never have a job because everyone else is doing it well. But I get questions all the time about why can't I figure out this retention issue or get people or why can't I grow as much as I want? I'm like, it's always a people problem. Are you retaining people? Do they have a process or an operating system? But it's all I always look at it through the lens of the team they have for them to get to the bigger picture that teams want. So I think it's never enough. I still think there's not really a like when I talk to leaders, I can tell when someone genuinely believes in putting people first and transparency and these buzzwords, but there's a lot that don't. They just don't care. They want to make money. They're owners and they want to take money home. It is so obvious to me now, in my like, as I've seen so many different folks, um, what a good leader looks like, and if they're genuine versus a bad one, you can just tell. And it's not right or wrong. Like they have to be these great people first leaders because there's a lot of businesses I envy because they make a ton more money or the owner is far more successful on paper than me. I just choose to do it the right way through my people being successful before myself. But that's a choice. It's definitely not like a right or wrong.
There's a lot in what you said, and I so appreciate everything you said because I think um, there isn't a one size fits all. At the same time, even in the age of AI, which we're in, and we're all trying to figure it out, you still can't do your job. You still can't run your company without people. You just have to repurpose what they do in a way that continues to bring value. And so, again, I think there's this huge opportunity we all know this. You can't operate the way that you used to with what you need to do now and definitely what you need to do in the future. And people are a key component of that. So if you're not a strong people leader, what's the effect of that?
Um, then you shouldn't be in leadership. Maybe you're a better manager or you need a process. There's leaders that create process or how to do things. I think it's a lot with communication, but process, like people also want to know what are the rules in the game I play in business and how do I do it? And give it to me in writing. And so you can have creators, but you can have leaders and or managers that are good at taking a process and being good at it. But not, that same leader isn't a good creator of change. Those are two different skill sets. So there's good operators and there's good change agents. Like I'm really good at changing and growing. I'm really bad because I get bored really quick at like sustaining. Like, hey, do this process. You hit it. I get so bored. I got to go do something else and grow something else. So it just depends what fits each individual's personality and what their passion is.
And how does that fit into how an organization um, designs their operating processes, designs how they work?
I think actually documenting processes is it's so funny that people still don't do it. And with the advent of AI, it's so easy to have some basic operating procedure of documenting how you function every day for every position. And I'm seeing teams that I go, okay, show me your process. They're like, oh, I don't know. This person just does it. It's a people process, which means they just depend on some person who knows how to do it. And I'm like, you're a 100-person company. Like it's crazy to me. And so I'm shocked that people don't take the time to invest and just put it in writing. With the advent of AI, it's so easy to get this stuff and how you operate. And then you can take that and change it to optimize kind of how you want the business to run or change for growth. But folks don't take that first step and they just because it's such a tedious administrative task, but it's so easy in this day and age.
It is, but I think there's also, again, there's this education on AI that you need to have, and some are running towards it, some are walking, some are stuck in place because I don't even know where to start. But I mean, you have to go, and like you said, AI can make things much easier, right? But you can't just rely on an individual for that because the individual is one part of the whole team, so to speak. So I think there's just this huge opportunity um, to kind of reimagine how we do what we do, and that takes time. So which gets into the quick fix mentality. Do you think as organizations continue to try to navigate this, that there's a quick fix mentality?
Um, I think there's ways to change a company quick and adjust really quick. There's never a quick fix, but I mean, good leaders can move pretty damn fast if they know how to execute. And so, like, I find myself to be a fast mover. Nothing's ever fast enough. But I think you also have to have a good leadership operations team to sustain those quick changes. Like, I'm really good at changing them, but I'm not really good at consistency keeping up with them because I usually hand it off to an ops leader. But if you have a good ops leader, it's and you're the change agent, yeah, I think that's a good combination to inflict quick change.
Suresh, I'm hearing throughout this conversation a very clear delineation of understanding the roles that are needed and understanding the strengths that you bring. When I say a leader brings, and making sure that you're not taking on too many things that aren't really your strengths, but you have a team around you that can pick up those pieces and run with them. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, like, fair statement, and it's hard to put it together too and know clearly what to do, and you don't wanna be overconfident, but I think doing your homework when you make changes is important, and then look, you can be wrong here and there. It's about being right more than you're being wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's something that we talked about. So I would love for you to just share an example of something that I did it and it was wrong, right? It didn't
Um,
turn out the way I wanted to.
I think trying to push people to work harder and more when I don't invest in enough people, like, when we're trying to grow and trying to put more on the current team is unfeasible, and I used to always assume everyone could work as long and as hard as I could, and that's
Mm,
not fair as a leader. I should be setting the example, but I shouldn't be expecting everyone else to exceed what I'm doing. And now that I have a family too, and before when I didn't, I think I didn't have a good appreciation for how important work life balance is for people's happiness at work. That my expectation of expecting people to do more with less is not fair, and so I've learned, like, go invest in the right teams to get to where you're going. And if you hit your goals, you won't care about that cost of the investment. You'll be happy you did it versus trying to say, how do I keep expenses as low as possible, but still do these crazy, awesome growth goals? Like, how do we hit them? And so now I invest in people early and often, and it's usually pays off.
yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot in what you said that I could go into. Um, Again, you learned this, so you experienced it, and I think, as a leader, as a founder, you operate differently than the team around you would operate. And so what you just said was just huge. I have to watch my expectations of my team and of myself. And I think there's huge opportunity in companies for people to really think about that because I think our workforce now is demanding it. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think the expectations in 2026 are a lot higher, and we as leaders, I think, can always do a lot better. If we think we're great, there's always better we could do for our people because they expect a lot from us, as they should.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. The other point I want to make is I think there's understandably so. There's focus on cutting costs, but is there enough focus on cutting complexity?
Probably not. I mean, no, I don't think people look at their processes enough because
Uh-huh.
it's hard to change that when people are used to it. You got to be really good at changing
Mhm.
folks. For someone to say, "I've been doing it like this 10 years," and for you to go, "Well, there's such a better way to do it." I think it makes common sense, but the actual change agent, because a lot of people are reluctant to change. That's
Mhm.
the leadership piece that I focus on is how do I get people to be more open minded to change, and it's hard. That's probably the hardest part. Not that you're going to save 8 more hours a week. That doesn't matter. It's actually getting people to be open minded to change. I think is the challenge.
No, I totally agree. I also just want to clarify when we're talking about, at least, from the work that I do, when I'm talking about, how we operate, uh, it's not just the processes. It is how we work as a team. It is how we do the work of the organization. And I don't think that gets reviewed enough. I don't think there's enough um, self assessment as a team of, are we working the best we can together? Any thoughts about that?
I think the scoreboard will tell you if we're working the best together. Like if and I think every team should have a measurable, like weekly measurable of what success is. That's going to tell you if the team's working together. If they're not, that could be part of the problem. There's very little teams I know that don't work well together, produce numbers. And so if you make the outcome and you show what winning and measuring success is week to week, then it's going to tell you if you have a problem or not. That way, it's not a subjective or perception point of view. If the team's working together, it's they're obviously working together if we're hitting all our goals.
Hmm. Yeah, that measurement is really huge, and I appreciate that. Let me ask you this: of all the things we've talked about, if you could leave our audience with, some key points that you think are, very valuable, practical across the business spectrum, what would that be?
Ask your employees what they want. Every team's different. And I
Mhm,
think, do you really know what your employees are expecting out of you? Whether it's more communication, or I've asked a simple question: if you were the owner, what would you change? Or I go for if I want to do an all team meeting, what do you guys want to know? And you'll learn from them. And the plan will sound really smart because you're just delivering what they wanted anyway. So people will be like, "This is a great idea." I'm like, all I did was ask the team what they want. I think just starting with that every quarter, like asking the team what do they want, staying in front of the trends, it'll help you prioritize what's important to them, which will help you win.
okay, that's easier said than done because I
Mm.
can tell you when you ask, and if they tell you, there's too many opportunities for people to start to defend, and that is one way to kill that connection, that engagement, is when you start to defend things that people are telling you instead of trying to understand what they're telling you. Any thoughts about that?
I think it's up to us as leaders to create the environment where they feel comfortable telling it, or having the avenue for them to speak to their manager. And then it's up to us as managers and leaders to create that environment. And if you do a good job and you get the honest, unfiltered truth, then you're in a good place to really do well in business.
Mhm. Yeah, Shrash, this has been great. There's so many different things that we could have talked about, but we only had like 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing your perspective. And as you've heard with Suresh, that performance is never accidental. It's built into how your business operates. This is Terry Wilson with Operating Discipline, and we'll see you in the next conversation.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.